The following podcast is sponsored by Luminary Leaders, Sadat and Associates, and Connected Women of Influence. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the podcast. My name is Shelly Harrison, and you are listening to Speaker Central. On this episode, we talk about Connected Women of Influence with my special guest, Michelle Bergquist. Welcome to this episode of Speaker Central, powered by Luminary Leaders. I'm your host, Shelly Harrison. Each week, I open the conversation with my guests to unravel their perspective, solutions, and get into the mindset of business. We break down their expertise to give our audience actionable steps and content to apply in their own businesses. Catch all our episodes on your favorite podcast platforms, subscribe and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Our exciting topic today is all about Connected Women of Influence with Michelle Bergquist. And I just love that I get to interview her today because we have some exciting things to share and things that we've been working on that we're ready to launch, and we can't wait to share it with you. So with that, I would love to introduce my special guest, Michelle Bergquist. She is the co-founder and CEO of Connected Women of Influence, a national association of female leaders. And she's also co-founder of Sue Talks, which I love Sue Talks, and we'll hear a little bit more about that. She also has a publishing aspect of what they do. So Women Lead Publishing, Women Lead Radio, Women Lead TV, I mean, on and on and on. So it's just like, and they're growing nationally. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Michelle Bergquist.
We go, yay!
Yay!
Sorry, Shelly, that was great. That was great. Women, obviously, Women Lead is central to what we're all about. I heard that 5 times.
That's right.
Women lead, women lead.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And I really appreciate just how you get in there, you get it done. And the thing is that you do it without even complaining. It's just like, you've got all these different aspects of things that are going on. And it's just like, okay, let's go tackle it. Let's go tackle it. And that's what I love about our relationship. And I'm excited to, kind of get into this and find out more about you and what gets you up in the morning and what you think about going, when you go to bed at night. So we want to really get down to digging in.
And within that, there's a lot of complaining. I just want you to know, you just don't hear it, but there's a ton of complaining going on. Exactly.
Yeah.
That goes with business. There's complaining. You just got to own it. That's the problem.
It's really, the complaining could be considered strategizing, right? Maybe it's strategizing.
I think so.
We'll give it a new term.
I think you said it's business insights, but what is complaining? Complaining is nothing ever, many things, but a lot of times things don't go according to plan. So the complaining is it didn't go like you wanted it to. So you got to figure out an alternative way, a workaround, or what I call plan B, C, or D, or Z at some point. So those are just what you deal with in business.
Oh, easily.
Absolutely.
So what I would love to do is have you introduce yourself, and who is Michelle Bergquist?
That's like a loaded question, man.
It is.
Michelle Bergquist loves Disney. She loves Olaf and Frozen. Clearly,
I love Olaf.
Let's go with that. But if you're looking at who is Connected Women of Influence, but when I say who I am, it's like I love being an entrepreneur. I will own that very proudly. I love building something, and that's what being in business has been for me. So this is my third venture. I've been in business over 30 years. I have to give my brother-in-law props because I coined his phrase many times. It's like, I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know everything. So from that standpoint, I know some good stuff. And, every day I just take one day at a time and learn lessons and think big and try to work hard and keep going every day. That's me.
Yeah, and you do. And you've got such a busy schedule. From, all 6 days, 7 days a week, sometimes I see you just, churning away. So today we're just going to take a little break and find out more about you and let you brag about the things that you do. As far as the, just Connected Women of Influence, when you think of the empire that you've created with Connected Women of Influence, and knowing now that it's gone national. And I'm happy to say that I'm a member, very
And
proud
sponsor.
member to be part of. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into the programs too. But when you think about it, what about Connected Women of Influence just blows you away that's happened in 2020, aside from COVID-19?
Aside from that, I think what blows my mind is, I mean, I remember the day, right? Everybody has their day that lives in infamy, so to speak, not to be dismissive of that day. But I think to me, this year is about March 13th, because March 13th was the day that I know we heard on the news that Governor Newsom said no events can be held in California over 200 people. And we were, for our association, 1 week and 2 weeks out with our annual Women of Influence Awards, where typically we get in 300, sometimes 400 people, depending on which market. And I just remember, we'd heard on the 12th that this was going to happen. So I think when I think of 2020, not relating it to COVID, but just saying what sets out for me, sits well, or that I think of, is how quickly we had to. I mean, we had to pivot. We made a shift. It's like we, hunker down the team. It's like, okay, we are not able to have any events anymore, talk to our hotel relationships. It was so fast and swift that I think now the beneficial side of that lemon kind of piece of it is that we realized that we didn't have to be contained in Southern California anymore. So for us, it was saying, oh my gosh, we have these great connections of people that have been knocking on our door outside of Southern California. And why are we limiting ourselves to members just in South California?
Right.
So we opened it up and we said, let's go national. Is that easy? No. It's like, did it make sense? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, for us, it's been really great. But, then the other part was, how do you continue to run a business where 40 to 50% of our revenue is events? And, we're all dealing with the fact that we're not able to host events, and we haven't since before March. Our last meeting was at the beginning of March. And so I think those things where sometimes it's due to the owner's, decisions or control. This was nothing to do with that. And we're in excuse me, I hope I don't mind if I swear, shitstorm, right? Where we're trying to figure out, it's like, what do we do? It's like, how can we still be relevant? I mean, our members have lost portfolios of business. They're all of that. So I know you said not talk about COVID, but you're thinking either one decision is just kind of curl into a ball in a corner, or the other one is, go make lemonade somewhere. And that's what an entrepreneur does. That's what we have to do. It doesn't make it easy, but that's kind of like what 2020 is for me. So.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, let's talk about that a little bit, because I know even in my industry, it's painful. I talked to one of my clients yesterday, and right at the beginning of this situation, 6 events canceled, and that was $70,000 in income for him. And when you think about that and you think, gosh, it's so on so many levels, and in the event industry for us, where we've had to pivot too. And, what we have done is, and you and I both have talked about this, where we've really used this time to be creative. We're still making money. We're still, trying to, keep the bills paid and doing all of that and building our membership and so on and so forth. But then you just kind of sit back and you think, okay, am I doing what I need to be doing so that when this all comes to fruition and things are back to the new normal, am I going to hit the ground running?
Right. Well, I think that's one of the things we did, and again, it depends on at the level of the ownership, right? One of the things I know that I took special time to do was immediately when this happened, probably the second week, was I was on the phone every single day calling members going, how are you? What's going on? How have you been impacted? Is there anything we can do? I mean, it was that kind of thing. And I think that represents our community in a way that members were doing that with each other. And we had members that lost entire portfolios. You had members that, just like you said, we shut down for the whole year, really, as far as our events go. That's 40% of our revenue right off the table, not including the other part that probably will be about 50%. But I think it's that, it's how you can shift and pivot that I'm not going to say it like what makes people great. It's that you just know, it's like when you're in business for yourself, it's like things don't always go according to the plan. It's
They
like, I have a
don't.
plan, but the plan is not going according to plan. So I'm like, what do? You make another
Yeah.
plan. That's how
Right,
it works.
right. Or you go to plan Z, right?
Yes. Yeah, we're there. What happens if Z doesn't work? I'm like, we go back to
Then
A.
you go back to A.
Exactly.
I love that.
People talk about plan B. I'm like way beyond that.
Yeah, and talking about, some things that are coming up with, with Connected Women of Influence, let's talk about national membership. I mean, what does that look like, and how can women benefit from, if they're in Texas or Florida or New York, and by the way, we want women from all over, right?
That's right.
All the states. So,
all of them, including Nebraska. I can say Nebraska because I'm from Nebraska. So
yes,
I would like women from Nebraska and Iowa. Yeah. I think what's interesting about Connected Women of Influence, at least our vision, was that there's no one smartest woman in the room in our association. In our association, every single member has experiences. I mean,
I know that to be true. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's the experiences that we have in a structured kind of like format of discussions and conversations that I think makes CWI, or at least members tell me that that's what makes us pretty special. No one's talking at you. No one's telling you the 5 things you've heard before. I mean, we have elements, but that are similar to other women's groups. But I would say that it is the people. We're not for every woman. We're really, truly for women that say, you know what? I don't love to network, but I want a professional network. And there's the difference, right? Networking now, and I've had so many conversations about this because networking is different now. I mean, some people are really repelled by the word networking.
Yeah.
And community is what we're about. And you know that because it's really about peeling back the layers. We're about business and industry. I think at a national level, it's like women differently than men. Let's say, I'm going to give an example. What men do so fabulously, and I came from commercial banking, is men play golf and they build those relationships and they look for different foursomes where they go and they meet other people. And that's just kind of I'm going to say, the natural migration of men, right? Yeah. Women, we engage in that. Maybe we love to golf or we hate to golf, but the difference
or we can't, we don't know how to play.
Exactly, but that's why you drive the beer cart. Me. That's right, you have to drive the beer cart. That's all you got to do, and you're good.
Or miniature golf.
Exactly. No, not the same.
Yeah, not the same, no.
But I do think women roll differently, and so our relationship building kind of like process is a little bit different. We have conversations. We want to give you, I always say our association is never at a lack of opinions, right? So our members love to give their opinion. They love to give their advice. Whether you take it or not is up to you, but we're focused on business and industry. So I think, that's where for other groups that are out there, like I think of Texas, right? Where there's so much in the oil and gas industry. And, and I've been to Texas and I've talked to women and they say there's just not a lot of women's groups. Like I could pinpoint the different states we want to be in, but right now we've been inviting women from different states. And it's been really interesting just to see their perspective differently than, let's say, California. So that part has been very eye-opening and I think really positive because there's a different perspective depending on what state you're in.
Yes, and it's so cool too to think that, now that we are kind of in a virtual world, we don't know how long we're going to be doing this. It's perfect for, for what you're accomplishing with the national membership, where you can still bring them, and I personally know just from myself being part of Connected Women of Influence, where it's networking to a degree. However, I've done more deep work on my business because of CWI. And, we've created a program together, Michelle, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, which I'm very excited about. So, for me, for my membership, I look at it, and we're a director level sponsor too, which, I'm very proud to say that we're very connected with your,
we're proud too.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing that women can expect by being part of CWI, from my perspective, is, the community. We're going to actually be able to, for once, because a lot of women who own their own businesses, they're constantly working in their business and not on their business. We're multitasking. We're trying to balance life, family, projects around the house, whatever. And we don't have a lot of time to work on our business. So that's the difference in CWI, where I've been able to look outside, with a different pair of lenses at, oh, wow, that's possible. And that's possible because of the women that I've connected with in my inner circle and, just playing along with some of the events that you've had where we do some really intriguing activities that for me, I've never seen in any other women's organization.
Wow, I love that. That's called a
Yeah.
mind blow. It's good, but
Yeah,
I mean,
mind-blowing stuff.
yeah, and I think the other difference too, Shelley, is that CWI is this wonderful blend. I will say it's not all entrepreneurs. It's not
Mhm.
all women solopreneurs. It could be enterprise level women, CEOs and owners that have employees. It also is corporate women, and
Mhm.
everybody's looking for the next step to advancement. It doesn't mean it's only the career ladder. Like some women are looking to leave corporate America and start their own businesses. And my gosh, the women owners that we have in CWI that can say, here's what I did. I mean, here's the 20,000 number list of what not to do, because I did it. Don't cash in your 401k plan. That's another whole podcast. But I
Yeah.
think based on that, it's just this wonderful place of women wanting to truly be resources, but it's wrapped around those conversations and discussions. And this is the other big thing is the collaboration, because we don't do
Yes.
that on the golf course. We do it over wine and conversations and that kind of thing. So it's just different, but that's what we've
Yeah.
had. Some of our members have done joint ventures together. They've built partnerships together. Some of our
And I'm
members have
one of them.
actually
Yeah.
funded businesses, for other members. And I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Wow. Oh, no, I said I'm one of those where,
Yeah,
I've collaborated, I've worked
yeah.
with other members, and, we've got some great things going on. And what I'd love to find out about is, we collaborated a while back, and we kind of brought this idea through, and you really kind of brought it home with women lead speakers.
Mhm.
And, of course, I'm a, speakers company. But the way that we're bringing this about for CWI members, what I would love for you to share with our audience and those that are thinking about becoming members of CWI, what does that do for them? Being a women lead speaker, what is it going to do for them from your vision, what you think, or not what you think, but what you're envisioning?
Right. No, it's a great question. I think this is what was interesting when you and I first met and we started talking about it. As somebody who's been in the speaking industry for many years, I think it's one of the toughest things to do. And most speakers will privately admit this, but not publicly. I think it's the hardest thing in the world for someone to be a professional speaker and they say, go get a virtual assistant, go get somebody that's your quote booker, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of speakers, when you start out, there's not a lot of financial wherewithal. I mean, the bigs have that, right? So they have somebody that represents them, a speaker management company, whatever, which is what you do. And I remember
Yeah.
when I met you, I went, oh my God, this is great. Because one of the things I hear from speakers so much is how frustrating it is trying to quote, sell yourself, right? To get
Yes.
those speaking engagements. And
To
yet when
pitch
somebody,
themselves. Yeah.
exactly. But when
Yeah.
someone else can represent you, and then, the beautiful alignment was, first of all, we were both commercial bankers back in the day.
Right.
So I think there was
That's true.
great. There was a good common denominator. And then, when you started talking about your area of expertise, and I see the opportunity even with associations, which I'm in a peer group of association executives, and they're
Yep.
always talking about, hey, does anybody know a speaker for X, Y, or Z? And it's very frustrating because a lot of these are men and they keep choosing men. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what about ladies? I'm like, here is a phenomenal, I mean, I bring it up and they're like, oh, Michelle, you in that ladies group. And I go, yes, that ladies group. I go, I'm about ready to kick your, you know what? I'm go, listen.
Oh,
So more women need opportunities for that, which is one of the reasons I was excited when we met, is that, again, looking at what our mission and our passion is women's advancement.
mm-hmm.
And you educate, you help with that. We've got other members that kind of help with speakers, but I
Right.
think it was the idea that we could help women advance on speaking engagements and opportunities by you and I aligning together. And that was a beautiful thing. And that's what really excited me, being able to align together with your expertise and what we have, knowing that there's some really great opportunity there for everyone, triple win, the women that we represent,
Yes.
you and CWI and Bamalama. There you go,
Yeah.
women speakers.
Bamalama. I love that. Yeah. And I'm exceptionally excited because I think, every time I get on the phone with a speaker, and now these are going to be CWI members who now I know that I can really help them amplify their, their speaking. And again, even though we're a virtual world right now, there's still so much out there to take
Yeah.
advantage of, where, and I want to give a shout out too for Michelle, because there's a couple of things. Number one, you are going to be featured in West Coast Magazine as
Ooh,
Women That Wow. And
I
so,
like that. I don't, is
yeah,
that like a thing there in the magazine? Cause I'm like, oh, I want to be a woman
yeah.
that wows. I
It's,
like that.
yes, and we're so fortunate because we get to actually showcase, our clients, and you're right front and center. So thank you so much for that. The other thing is we're going to be featuring Connected Women of Influence in the magazine In the Limelight with Clarissa Berg. So that's another
Thank you for that.
beautiful, magazine that you're going to be featured in, and you're going to be able to, and that magazine is digital. Both of them are digital, so those will be available, and we'll definitely put them on your platform, my platform, so everybody gets to see it.
Hey, but I want to say this, I know this is your show, but I mean, that's one thing that's always impressed me about you is that you really, truly look at things, not just for representing speakers. There's so many other things, Shelley, that you do to bring opportunity to your clients.
Oh,
And
thank you,
I've been
Michelle.
impressed with that. I mean, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to be more than just women lead speakers, which is exciting. And, you've been asking me about pivoting. Look at, what you do. I mean, right now, I've seen speakers that have flourished, some that are, a lot that are struggling, where you've had to pivot. I mean, you were representing people at in-person events, and
Right.
now here you are booking people for podcasts, and you were doing that before, but even more so now. And, you had to make a huge pivot. We all have. So I don't think anybody is, except the people in the mortgage industry or financial services, because they're killing it right now because everybody's,
Refinancing and, oh yeah.
exactly.
No,
There's
it's a
some
great industry
industries that
for
are going
them.
crazy right now, which is good, I guess.
What I really want to get into is Michelle Bergquist is this leader of an empire. I can tell you're getting
Can you
nervous,
just say
right?
that again? Because I'm like, I am?
Michelle
Wait,
Bergquist
I am. I
is
totally
the
am.
leader of this empire of women they love CWI. It's not about them right now. It's about you. So
Okay.
I want to know, as far as Michelle, what gets you up in the morning, and what makes it so that you, not so much about CWI, but what gets you up in the morning so that you just have this feeling of, what, I can accomplish anything.
Yeah, first of all, wow, yeah. I have to get to the heart of that. I'm like, when you
I
say
want
it's
you
not
to.
CWI, it is CWI, but I think more than that, in all honesty with that question, I think it's this, for me, it's drive, it's the ambition, and it's not necessarily always revenue generated. I think that's the one difference for us as women. It's like, yes, I'm motivated by money and revenue and profits and no loss. And right now we're dealing with a lot of that and how to navigate that. But I think it's the idea of creating something out of nothing. But I know as I grew up, and I know this is totally trite, but it was always told to me, and I love my mother, but it was like, if you're not dead, you're going to school. So it was like, you just get up every day, you give it your best, you're
Yeah.
up early, you put in the day's work. You work hard, you get it done. And I'm from the Midwest, and that's kind of the upbringing.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that does fit me to that, is that I love what I do. If I was
Yeah.
working for somebody else, it would be different. But to know, and I think back now, because this is our, believe it or not, this is our 12-year anniversary this month.
I know, how exciting.
It's crazy. And I think when we started and how we kind of had a little bright idea that turned into a ripple effect now with passion and purpose and mission and strategy and all of that. And I'm like, oh my God. And now I say national, I go, pinch myself. People go global. I'm like, I don't know about that.
I told you that the other,
I know,
I think I did. Yeah.
I know. And I haven't,
probably others too. Yeah.
so that kind of thing. But I'm like, national's good. So I like the drive and the ambition in a good way, right? And you want to feel like you're doing something good, you're creating something good. I get such a charge anytime when somebody says yes to me for business, and whether it's a little piece of business. I remember back in my other company, the corporate basket, somebody would say yes to a basket, and I'd be just as excited if they gave me a $10,000 order. It's like they believe in me. Like, that's a big deal. So I think that, I hope, answers the question, because it's hard for me to talk about.
No, that definitely does, because I know you to be someone that, here you are, you've got this amazing organization that's celebrating 12 years, but yet you are not that kind of person who's, yes, it's about me. It's about me. It's all about, let me help you. Let me connect you with this person. And that's what has organically helped you to really embrace the women that are in your organization. And by the way, there's several hundred women in your organization, and even more once you go national. So,
We
you
have
know,
600, Shelley. We're holding at 600.
that's a lot. That's a
That is
lot
a
of
lot.
women. That's a lot
Yeah.
of women.
Yeah.
Amazing women, by the way, you know, and when I think of you, though, I just think of someone that, you know, you're such a great strategist. I love to idealize with you where we can get on the phone and we can, you know, talk a couple of hours, right? And then our eyes are in the back of our head because we've talked about so much, but we have to take notes to make sure we don't forget.
Exactly.
You
And then we
know?
have to organize them. That's our problem, right? But we'll talk
Yes.
about that later. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
another story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, seriously though, I want to get into Sioux Talk. I'd really love to cover Sioux Talks, and let's walk me through that.
Yeah. You know, there's always a story, right? So
Mhm.
we were back quite a few years ago. I think I keep saying we've been around 6 years, but it was at least a year and a half before that. But I was working with one of our members, Deanna Potter, who still is a member, and she is a co-founder of Sioux Talks. But at the time,
Oh.
you know, members have probably some of the best ideas and interests in what CWI could be. I mean, what we are today is not what we could be tomorrow. And that was the conversation. We were like, okay, this is who we are. We were just, you know, ideating on some different types of events that we could do. And I remember Deanna landing on and saying, well, what do you think, Michelle? What if we did our own version of talks? And I mean, that literally was the conversation. We're over the phone, and I remember getting goosebumps and kind of going, well, what do you mean by that? And she goes, well, you know, kind of our own version of talks, you know, by women. I'm like, that's a great idea. I go, let's roll with this. And that one little thing became, could we, should we, I'm going to go to Dr. Seuss. Could we, should we, in a bush? Could we, should we, with a fox? I mean, all that. It was, and then
Yeah,
we
you have
said,
to take that into consideration.
absolutely. Yeah. And from there we ideated, and it was just this compadre thing with Deanna and I, that we just worked together on it. And then it was, hey, wait a minute, this is a member that's volunteering their time. And I keep thinking that's what also makes CWI unique, is that I'm not going to just take ideas from members and run with it. I mean, I'd like to think we're awesome and great, and we are, but we're awesome and great because of the members that have been so engaged and giving their opinions and doing it in a neat way that says, Michelle, this is who we are, this is good, but here's where we could go, this would be even better. And that's what Sioux Talks came about. Was, you've heard of the other talks. We said, what if ours was focused on women and advancement, or women in leadership, or women in business, but had a business focus? Then our talks had to stand for something. It wasn't about, you know, I've seen so many other talks versions that are out there, and they're great, but for us, it had to have purpose and it had to have meaning. And so we settled on, I mean, I think we must have looked 2 weekends where we just like, I pulled every name from the internet I could find that started with, you know, that was a 3-letter word. And so we started looking for different words of what meant, and we landed on Sue. And then we said, well, what does Sue mean? And so that was every letter, every word with S, every letter, a word with U. And we settled on successful, unstoppable, and empowered women that are changing the face of business. Now it's become more than that, because we don't think women should be in a vacuum by themselves. So the talks now still are Sue Talks. We're about being successful, unstoppable, and empowered. But yet now we have 5 women, and because we want to be that inclusive organization, and we have 1 dedicated dude as well. So we have 6 presenters and 1 guy.
and what is cool about Sioux Talks, you know, of course there's a process, you know, and I know that you get hundreds of applications.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, the Sioux Talks, if you really think about it, there are other talks out there where they have 1 person doing that talk, right? But with Sioux Talks, you get 6 different versions because you have a theme for each one. And the themes are so intriguing, and people gravitate. So they'll say, oh, that's a perfect topic for me, or theme for me. And they want to do it. And it's, you know, they're honored to be part of, you know, this process, because it is a process. They go through mentorship, right? So tell us about that briefly, because I know that, you know, people are going to want to know, how do I become a Sioux Talker?
Right. No, I love that. You know, it's interesting. And I will tell you, some of the most challenging, you know, women we've worked with, not because they're not great and professional, it's because a Sioux Talk is about, think of it as a monologue. It is 12 minutes, so they're only 12 minutes long. So I think it's harder for people to speak in 12 minutes than it is to do one for a half hour, right? You've got to be very, very clear, bold, brief, and done about what you're going to say. So the thing about us Sue Talks is that we ask people to talk from the I perspective, which means you're on stage, you're giving people the I perspective in a storytelling format that you need to take people where your head is. And you can't do that when you're giving them the 5 things you need to know. I mean, what our Sue Talks are about are storytelling. There's no PowerPoint, there's no props, there's no, what do they call those teleprompters, there's no privacy screen for you to be able to get your notes. It's about you rehearsing, you have to memorize it. And then the idea is you're giving this bold, passionate, and powerful brief talk that's going to hopefully, by the time the audience or the attendees or our viewers have watched it, you're inspiring change of some sort, and it's focused on business. So those things there's a criteria and a framework for it. And some people come in and say, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but they just want to kind of wing it. And I go, there's no winging it in this talk. I mean, it's a performance.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's storytelling where it's really, they have to first of all, rehearsing something like that, you really have to practice. And, even with our clients, I tell them, if you're going to do a presentation, you have to practice it and, over and over and over again. But what's nice is these Sue Talkers get mentors, people that have been Sue Talkers before. They know the ropes, they know how to guide people. And I mean, and the thing is this is, something that is valuable for these people that might pursue a speaking career, or maybe it's going to change their own lives, because I just spilled my guts out on stage and I feel so empowered, or I feel so relieved, and they just shoot off into another direction, and things start to happen for them.
Yeah, I think you've been in the audience. That charges me up just to hear that you've been inspired that way. Again, on the other side of it, it's like sometimes it's a little. I mean, I've been accused of kind of deflecting a little bit. Deflection is kind of part of my nature. People can see what I want them to see and not the rest. So a Sue Talk is about, in some sense, giving people a little more about what
being vulnerable.
Being vulnerable. Some cases, and not to say I grew up in a poor, bean field, and now I'm fabulous and wonderful. We all have adversity, but I think it's that how we navigate that, what we think, what was going through our mind, how did we act, and then what was the lesson that we learned from it. That's what makes a Sue Talk just incredible. Some of those, I mean, I can remember some of them in my mind still, and this is our 6th year. So they're all different because they all come from that personal and professional perspective.
Yes, and they're also in several different counties. So you have in San Diego, LA, Orange County, and now in the Inland Empire. Woo-hoo! So and we have some dates coming up, I know, with Sue Talk. So where, people that aren't seeing this, but they're listening to us, can you give us the website where they can find you?
So anybody can go to SueTalks.com. So they can go there. When they go to SueTalks.com, they're going to be able to see a drop down if they want to apply to be a Sue Talks presenter. It's under our radio, TV, and webinar section, or it's on the Sue Talks page. They'll see, apply to be a presenter.
Right. And membership too. Membership's on there. So we want to make sure they know.
Come visit us as our guests. Come visit CWI as our guest.
Yeah, no, this has been great, Michelle. And I really appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you and everything that you've done, for our company with Luminary Leaders, and the things that you do for, women across the board with CWI, really. Well, thank you. And I would love for you to leave one last thing for our audience that you, and you could, do it for men and women. I mean, just business in general, or just something that you want people to know. But give us that one last piece of, something that we could put into action that is just mind-blowing.
This is more, I think this is for women, because we use this word all the time, and it's on perfection. And then it came to me a long time ago, but it's like, never, ever strive to be perfect, but always, always strive to perfect.
Ooh, I really like that one. We are going to add that to the show notes, because I think that is a great tip. Because think of all the women that they have to be so perfect, and I think sometimes we've been in those shoes, where we think we have to be perfect.
And I think that's what people say, you have an empire. I'm like, why? Because we try. I mean, that really is our
You make it happen.
We try. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, we try it a different way. So, yep, that's what I'm saying. Don't be perfect. Be messy.
Messy. I love that.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks, Michelle, for being here. And, to our listeners, followers, we appreciate you being here. I do have Connected Women of Influence on the back of me so when you go to Connected Women of Influence, this is the first page you'll see on their homepage. So again, Michelle, thank you for being here. And to our audience, hopefully you'll catch our episodes and subscribe on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, we're on Spotify. I mean, just all the podcast channels. And with that, we will say goodbye and see you next time. Thank you.
Hey there, did you enjoy the episode? If you did, subscribe to Speaker Central